This segment sponsored by Viking Psychiatry. It is Tuesday, so welcome back to Mental Health Matters. And I am speaking with Goddard, who is over Viking Psychiatry, as he provides us with really great mental health information and solutions. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. So good to see you again.
You as well. Okay, so over the last couple of weeks, we dove into depression. Such a huge topic that so many people are facing on a day-to-day basis with themselves and also within their family. And so we talked about the basics, we talked about treatment. Today, let's talk about depression in adolescence. Okay, our kids are getting hit across the board with so many things that could really affect their mood, and they do fall into depression. So let's start off, share with me what you're seeing. As you see your patients, what are you seeing in kids right now?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was tough when I was growing up, right? But now, teens nowadays face so much more. You know, I saw it with my daughter when she was going through high school, the social media, and, you know, when we talk about wanting to be the Joneses, these kids really experience that quite a bit of these expectations of what they're supposed to do or what they're supposed to look like or what's cool, and that's the wrong word for today's day and age, right? But what's cool today. And there's a lot of pressure there that goes along with it. And do you fit inside what's normal? And who's defining what's normal? And so there's a lot of additional pressure there. On top of that, you know, I remember when I was that age, it was common for you to go to school, then you go home, you have a snack, right? You do your homework, and then you go to your sports, and you play your sports for an hour or two, and then you're home in time for dinner generally, right? And you have your downtime. And now what I see are these kids who are involved in 3, 4, 5, 6 sports, so much pressure to achieve, right? And so they're going straight from school, straight into the sport. They're not getting any downtime, any snack time, right? Any family time. They're doing sports all the way through dinner. They're getting home at 9, 10 o'clock at night, right? Still have to do their homework. And then at 11 o'clock, it's okay, shut our brain off and go to sleep, right? Which is really hard to do. So they're often have so much pressure and then expected to do so much more. And these kids are averaging, you know, 5 hours of sleep. And that's just not sustainable long term. And so I think all of this directly plays an effect in their overall mental health.
Yes, and you make such a good point about the things that they have to accomplish throughout the night. I mean, we all only get 24 hours, but I feel like even the homework is like insane. You have to go home and do 3 hours worth of homework or 5 hours worth, and there's no time for that breathing room just to enjoy a little life. I mean, these are still young folks that are developing in their mind and trying to create a balance, but they should not have to have the same burden as someone that's going to college. And so when they are overwhelmed, and like you said, that pressure point at the end of the night, and they cannot turn off their brain, and so what does that end up doing, and how does it roll over to actually bouts of depression?
Yeah, so, I mean, really when you have, we've all been in that situation where we've wanted to be in first place, right, or be the best, and when we're not in first place, we often beat up on ourselves, right? And when there's so many pressures from so many different areas, it's hard to achieve everything that it is that you're wanting to achieve, and there's so much stress and pressure to not only achieve but to be good at what you're doing, that when we don't get there, that can really weigh down on us, right? When we want to please our mom or please our dad and be the best player, right, or get the best grades, but you can't be the best at everything, but there's this expectation that you are, and that can drag you down, right? And with such a go-go world, there's hard to have connection and interaction, and that's so important for us as human beings to have connection and interaction. But instead, the connection and interaction is through this, right? Through that electronic device that we're holding in our hand. And often we don't get to sit down and have dinner with our family like, you know, we used to be able to do, right? It's eating on the go and those types of things. And all of that weighs in on us, right? We're not designed to be alone. We're not designed to be behind an electronic device. We're designed to be connected and grow and learn from each other. And so I think all of that plays a significant role on why we see teens who a greater percentage of teens who are not only struggling with depression, but severe levels of depression, right? And often facing suicidal thoughts and extreme negativity because they didn't achieve or they didn't do exactly what they wanted to do, or they don't feel loved or appreciated because they don't have those interactions that they really need.
Yeah, and like you said, that the power of comparison is just one of those things that is just so sad. Comparison, of course, kills all joy. You know, it steals just moments from your own personal success, achievement, and being excited about the future, which is hope. And so when people lose hope is when they go into those depressive thoughts, because they said, oh, I cannot get out of this. I feel like it's so heavy on me. And then that flows to suicide. And so when we talk about some of these triggers and the reasons why, let's talk about some of the treatments, because I know that treatments are actually very limited for adolescents, right?
Yeah, regretfully, when it, typically first-line treatment should typically look at therapy, right? Assuming the level of stability of the client, looking at therapy and getting out there and being able to talk and make a connection and understand the stress and the pressures and the emotions that you're feeling, right? And normalizing feelings, right? Because the problem is when people are struggling, when teens are struggling, a lot of times they feel abnormal and they feel like their thoughts are wrong, right? Maybe because of the way they were brought up. And so letting them understand that it's okay to feel the way that they're feeling, help them understand that and help guide them forward. And so therapy is one of the main options here in Fort Wayne. And then often, depending on their level, we look at medications, preferably in conjunction with therapy, but medications are the next option. The concern there is there's so many limitations. So many medications are only approved for the ages 18 and above. And so one of the consistent concerns that providers have who treat the adolescent and pediatric population is that I just have the same tools to use over and over and over again. And when those tools don't work, right, what do I do? How do I get them help? And we really struggle in the Fort Wayne community to have options available in mental health. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I know that there is an option that you provide at Viking Psychiatry, and this is the knocks out. We talked about knock out, and it's nitrous oxide. So tell me, what is nitrous oxide?
Yeah, so nitrous oxide, most people know it as laughing gas, right? It's commonly used in the dentist's office. It's also being used in ERs and on ambulances. So for example, a kid needs an IV in the ER, and we get really excited when somebody comes with a needle, and so they'll use it to calm them down. Or let's say somebody's in a car accident and they're trapped and they have to cut them out. They'll use nitrous oxide to help them relax while that is processing and they get them out of the vehicle, right? And so what we have found, there have been some studies ongoing in using nitrous oxide, more specifically a split of nitrous oxide and oxygen, 50-50, used as a inhaled treatment for 30 to 60 minutes. And the studies are very promising. They're phase 2 right now, showing the success in using nitrous oxide in depression and for acute suicidality. And so there are some practices in the U.S., which include Viking Psychiatry, that have decided to go ahead and pull the trigger and have that available because of those limitations that we see often. And so we're going to be opening up this treatment to ages 13 and above. And so there's many different situations in where you could use it, but we're really excited about having this available and having another option for teens, because when you're struggling, again, we've talked about this before, you don't want to feel better in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, you want to feel better now. When you're suicidal, right? People talk about hospitalization, and sometimes that can be scary, and there's a appropriate time for hospitalization, but at the same time, if we can avoid that, sometimes that can be a really good thing, because the experience of hospitalization within itself sometimes can be very traumatizing for folks.
And that is interesting, like the speed in which this medicine and procedure really works, because it goes into the mind, and you say that people can feel relief like within the first treatment of their thoughts change. They're not on that ledge anymore. They're calming down, and it's all about how the brain is working and just lowering those levels of flight or fight mode, really, right?
Yeah, so we've talked about before how like medicines nowadays, they tend to target serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine, right? And that's the same pathway we've been going on for a long time in psychiatry. And knocks out is able to treat the glutamate pathway, right? And so very similar to like the Spravato that we talked about. And so when they get a treatment, that's being affected immediately, right? And so they come in for 30 to 60 minutes and they are able to feel an immediate difference. So let's say, you know, you're a teenager and you're going to get treatment and maybe they started you on a medication, right? And that medication isn't working and you're not feeling good and they say, okay, we want to try another medication. Well, that switch can be very hard, right? Even the first time you're put on a medication can be hard. And to tell that teen, you have to wait 8 to 12 weeks to feel better. So this is where knocks out comes into play, right? Because we start that initiation, you come to our practice and you do a treatment once a week for 4 weeks. And what the studies have shown is it causes a not long lasting, but an immediate elevation in mood and decrease in anxiety and stress levels. We do something called the DAS-21 when we do these scores, and we're able to see these sudden significant drops in stress and anxiety and depression, right, while that new medication is taking its time to take effect. And so we're able to support those people, help improve mood instantaneously, hopefully, and potentially prevent hospitalization as well.
Yeah, I love this. It's kind of like the ambulance of treatment for the mental health, because instead of that long term, like you said, the hospitalization, the process of like a long surgery, for example, you're able to put them in the ambulance immediately and stabilize them on site. And that is really cool. And it's so cool to learn that there are these innovations that's out there and that it's available right here in Fort Wayne. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing today, Sean.
Absolutely. I appreciate being here again.
Yes. And if you'd like more information about Viking Psychiatry, we'll have their website listed below, and I'll see you after the break. This segment sponsored by Viking Psychiatry.